I want to read you guys a comment that I got from someone on Twitter, and I want to know what you thought about it. So I basically tweeted, like, we're going to be breaking down the game. The goal that happened against Canada can happen. And thank you, Trent, for responding to me. And he said, this team is in a transition player-wise and as an organization in the CSA. Transition is messy and looks bad at times, but the main goal is to get this team primed for hosting a World Cup in 2026 and going deep in it. You have to dig a deep hole before you can lay a new foundation. So when I read this, I agree, right? Like, mistakes are going to happen. Like, it's just going to happen. You have a lot of new players. Ali Ahmed, I thought was like awesome. I thought he was so good. And we were saying this on our last episode of Kickback. We need these players to get that experience. I'm happy they're getting this right now in the Gold Cup because we need to work on our depth. But in a sense, I don't really think we're in a transition because we have our core group of players. You know, I feel like now we have to build on what was our World Cup performance in Qatar. And it feels like we're not building on that. And with 2026 so close and Copa America right around the corner with some of the best teams in the world, we can't be talking about like a transition. We got to be talking about solidifying the core and getting immense quality from that core. What do you guys think?
The big thing with that is I agree. And again, but like you said, how should this be a transition? I think, again, we look at that World Cup and go, oh, there's the high. We can get even higher. And it should be, as we talked about, it's not linear. It's not going to be linear. And there are going to be the dips and dots and whatever. But drawing, it feels like a loss to Guadeloupe. Yeah. It is not progress. It doesn't matter how you look at it. Yes, you have guys like Ali Ahmed, who has had a great story even in the last couple of months. Earlier, I believe it was last month in the Canadian Cup, he was knocked out cold on the pitch. It was about a 20-minute break. And I believe it was Pacific FC, if I'm not mistaken.
I didn't know that.
And he had to be transported to hospital, and the story for him to be able to come back and play like he has in his first match is fantastic. Those are the players you need to start paying attention to. Jacob Schaffelberg, who's having a great year in Nashville too, he needs to start getting looks as well, and he looked well. He looked good. Those are the types of things when it comes to development and the transition period that I would understand, but a draw to Guadeloupe without you don't need Davies or David or Stacky or Buchanan against this team. You can have Buchanan light in Russell Rowe, who I genuinely thought it was Buchanan for a second. You can have those players in there and still have a transitional period. And you can still lose and draw games, but you can't do that against a team like Guadeloupe.
I agree. It's like I would never look at the goals scored against us and say, oh, we're in a transitional period. That's unfortunate. We're in a transitional period. I mean, the way I saw it was like, whoa, if Guadeloupe just did that to us, what's Argentina going to do to us? What's Brazil going to do to us? Ecuador is one of my favorite teams at the World Cup. These are the teams that Canada might be competing against in the Copa America. So, yeah, as much as I understand the transition in the sense that we need to start bringing these younger players forward and depth is so, so, so important, I feel like Canada is almost like kind of we're at the phase now where it's like solidifying the core and working on quality. This is so hard for me to say because I love this team so much. I just haven't seen it since Belgium.
Yeah, maybe he means like transitioning from veteran players like Borjan and Victoria. Like I don't know.
Which will we though?
I hope so. Because I think Borjan might need to. I know Canadian men's national team supporters have not been a big fan of Borjan and how Herdman's been sticking to him throughout so many tournaments. I mean, I get it. Like, he played well for us during qualifying, but I think it's important, especially in a tournament like the Gold Cup now, where you can maybe rotate and see what you have.
Big time.
But that's that transition we're talking about, right? Like you said, you got to move on from the players like Victoria and Borjan.
Yeah, sorry,
but
Brett.
It's so interesting, right, guys? Because in the game against the U.S., everyone was like, where's Victoria? Right? Like, we were like, he's not playing. So it's like this big question mark in the program. if it's not Victoria, and if and I forget the other individual's name, he kind of had a tough game who was in his position against the US. So we were kind of like, oh, okay, inexperienced, and Victoria was on the bench. Why wasn't our most experienced player on the field? And then against Guadeloupe, everyone's like, oh, Victoria, new players need to come in. So it's like these question marks, like, do we even have players for those positions that are like the guy? It's the guy, it's the starting lineup, it's the back line that's solidified. That's what's kind of scary. And Victoria's a very experienced player. So, these things happen. But again, if it's Lionel Messi, we're saying, okay, he was had. It happened. It happened to Gvardiol in the World Cup, the best defender in the tournament. And, Messi did his thing. But it's, respectfully, it's Guadeloupe. Like, it just can't be happening. So this is, this is where I'm like, a lot of question marks right now going into next year in 2026. And I don't blame a lot of Canadian fans for feeling confused. Like, apparently the fans were booing Canada at BMO yesterday. And I've never heard anyone, like, we're Canadians. We don't, like, that doesn't, it must take a lot to make us upset like that. And a lot of fans were booing the team.